Route 25 and Room Center Road was the start of the rest of my life. They were putting up a sign that remained there until the 1950s, so some of you probably saw it. The message was, "Where will you spend eternity?" And then it had the address of the church down the road. John was one of a group of Sydney College students asked to participate in this dedication, and when I saw his friendly smile under a head of dark, wavy hair, Sydney College students who had participated in this dedication, and over the next 2 years, after my parents gave him permission to visit, but always with them present, never alone until the last 2 days before we were married, even then. And the day after John graduated with a ministerial degree, we were married on June 14th, 38. And the following years were sweet, very extremely busy. Our family grew rapidly. In 6 years, we had 5 children. We pastored several Ohio churches in small towns, but the wage they could pay was not enough for our needs, and he worked at other jobs and employees, no matter wherever he toiled.
Yeah, there is.
From a full day's work, then pitched in all evening to help me cope with and bedtime. And then it worked at a machine shop in Maple Street in Bowling Green on September 14th, 1945. He was seriously injured in a fall and rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital in Steele. And for a month, I would be able to go visit him with family members or friends. It pained me because I never did learn to drive, and he was paralyzed. They gave little hope, and when he died, there were so many, many people who loved and valued this special young husband and father at his funeral service. Another difficult time and new phase in my life. Finances were not abundant. The only income I had was a widow's pension and children's benefits from Social Security, so I took in washing and ironing and cleaned in others' homes. The neighbors in the southeast corner of Bowling Green helped out, surprising our children sometimes with gifts packed in boxes left on our porch on Christmas Eve, quietly helping when they would see a need. And we moved there after I used a small insurance settlement that covered the cost of a little 4-room house on 8th Street, not modernized. I had a well drilled because the well there wasn't sufficient. And we lived there until the late 1960s. And after 5 years raising my little family alone, I met Earl Poe, my second husband, during a retreat at God's Bible School in Cincinnati. And he had 5 children he was raising alone. We fell in love and decided to become one family in 1950. So into this small 4-room home, we started a new phase with 5 boys and 5 girls. And within 2 years, we had another son and daughter, making an even dozen. And there was, as before, always less income than needed, so I continued to do washing and ironing, not just for our family, but others. All without running water in our home and not many material blessings, but in spite of, and I'm sure probably partly because of this, we all learned to get along in ways that developed a close-knit family. I could share one unique problem: where do 12 children and 2 adults sleep in a 4-room home? The boys would transform the living room at night into a dorm with a couch made into a bed, 2 stuffed chairs together for another boy pushed together, and 2 roll-away beds. And the girls, they shared a full-size bed in the 1 extra bedroom, 3 on that, and bunk beds. You were lucky if you got to sleep in the bunk bed. Sometimes you took turns. The 2 youngest slept for several years in our room, and as older siblings left home, there began to be more space, but still cramped a long time. I loved cooking for my family. That occupied a good bit of my days, as you can imagine. We often had fried chicken for Sunday dinner. Each received only 1 serving of meat, and I would fill out the meal with pastas or vegetables or bread. Favorites of the children turned out to be the cinnamon rolls I regularly had made in the afternoon that would still be warm when they got home from school, and they quickly disappeared. Or I baked pies that would well, when I bake pies, I'd always make one extra crust and put some melted butter and cinnamon and sugar, and that would quickly go. I don't think very many loaves of bread ever got cool at our house. When they came out of the oven, I sliced them while they're still warm, and they'd sit around the table with smiles on their faces as this treat was consumed. Two family recipes often fed our big family and became ones that the children then shared with their kids as grandchildren began arriving: ribble soup and chicken and homemade noodles. I worked at stamping in maintenance for several years, and later at BTSU for a couple of years at the athletic training table, and Nate Thurman was one of the students. He was my dishwasher, so if you can imagine this 6'11" person standing beside me, helping me do dishes. And then for several years in maintenance there. And each fall during touch-up season, I would work during the night at Hines. Earl and I were lay missionaries in Old Mexico after the children were grown for about 4 years, and then later we served as missionaries at an Indian reservation in New Mexico in the 1960s, where we were house parents at a group home for adults in Indiana, and raised gardens for most of our years together. We canned lots of food, which, as you would guess, we needed it. Earl died in 1990, and I moved into a high-rise apartment on Grove Street, and my children and grandchildren often were visiting at my place. And we enjoyed all sorts of family times. It was a given we'd have a summer get-together in August and then have a Christmas celebration in December. And these potlucks always had to include my noodles and chicken. The kids would insist on that, and some would even come the day before to help me finish this task at times. My faith was my mainstay. I had many health issues over my life, plus all of the busyness, and I just don't know what I would have done. With all of these, I couldn't have coped without our Lord's help. And He gave me many joys and helped me realize how blessed I was. I love sharing my faith with others. Little children were dear all my life. I found out later that those in my apartment complex in those later years called me the Bible lady, as I spent time with the neighborhood children telling them Bible stories or just playing with them. I had 43 grandchildren, many great-grandchildren by the time God called me home in 2001, and I am buried here at Oak Grove Cemetery.